Dean Close. So the change of use from a double garage to a dwelling stroke studio apartment and extension. And if you just bear with me while I try and share my screen. Well, I can see it, but you can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, so who, me?
No, it's that one.
Okay, so 13 Dean Close. This is a photograph that was provided as part of the application. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to go out to site, and Street View doesn't go quite far enough around to see it. But this is the garage in question. The main property is out of the photo, and this is the garage that belongs to this property. This is the existing floor plan. And in 2011, they actually gained a lawful development certificate, which said that this, because it had been previously used for, I think it was probably 4 years or more, that it became lawful in its use as an annex. So that already exists. What they're applying to do now is to extend to the rear here, and actually there's a small extension at the front which sort of forms an entrance porch and lobby, and then they're also showing this here as being the bin store. And when you look at the elevation, so this is what it will look like from the front. This is obviously the rear. This bit here is the projection of the lobby, but it doesn't actually show the bin stores where they will be. If I just go back to the layout, so you can see that actually that would come out quite a significant amount into the front. So they're showing the 2 car parking spaces that would be available for the annex, but it doesn't actually show a parking area for the existing house number 11, which I think it should, because I think the photograph sort of demonstrates, that there's obviously quite a lot of parking there, or parking space needed there, and also concerned that this garden area to the rear is very small. So that's the summary of that one. Over to you for your thoughts.
I have just an observation. On the Google Earth, you see they already have a structure out the back. You've seen that? Yes,
yeah.
like a conservatory thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't on the drawing.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go and look, but I wouldn't have been able to get around the back and see anyway.
I did try and go and have a look. I mean, it is pretty tight around there. Obviously, you can't see around the back either. Yeah, it is very, very tight, isn't it? I mean,
I was just going to.
What's the legal if they've already got permitted development?
So they can continue to use what is already there as an annex, but they won't have any permitted development rights. So what they're doing, I think, is tying the whole thing up with a change of use for the whole thing to residential, and putting the extension on the back and the small extension on the front. I was just going to refer to what the Civic Society said for information.
Sort of overdevelopment, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was the main option.
Yeah, so they've also mentioned the fact that the parking spaces for the main dwelling are not shown, and believe that there's insufficient off-street parking. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'm inclined to object, I must admit. I just think it's so tight around there. I'm not sure it's going to work.
I mean, it looks to me like just the fact that they're looking to create an additional dwelling implies there's going to be a need for even more parking than is there already.
Yeah.
And that's clearly already ram-jammed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right, Andy. We all happy with that?
Is it worth just commenting that, I mean, presumably somebody's already living there,
Yeah.
so we don't know who they are. I certainly don't. It might actually improve their living standards to have that done. We might be just, doing them a disservice in times when people need housing. Just a point.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't know.
Having said all that, it is tiny. It probably looks even smaller in view of the houses either side of it, which are quite big.
Very valid point. I don't know. I just think it's such over development on that particular little site. I have to admit.
There's several of those in this list of houses where they've,
Has Sheila got a microphone on?
just several of the applications we might look at tonight, whereas people are obviously trying to make greater use of their plot, which, like Rich is saying, is understandable, but it does mean that everything gets extremely squished and tight, and when you have 2 cars per dwelling as well, it gets totally overwhelmed, really. And I think all we can do is to comment on the fact that that is what's happening, and it's happening all over town, and it's going to cause problems. We know the problems that they're going to cause.
Yeah, totally agree. So where are we? Are we objecting? Are we not objecting? I mean, we're sort of a bit on the fence at the moment, aren't we?
I'm old. I can't actually remember what I said in my comments to it that we send around. But,
You've got your comments in front of me.
I don't like it particularly, but am I minded to object? I don't know.
Paul?
No, I agree with everything that's been said. I think really we have to object on the grounds of overdevelopment. I mean, whether this planning permission goes ahead is approved or not, there's already too much parking, and I'm not sure that the parking situation would change one way or the other. But obviously, the larger the dwelling that is there, the more likelihood. Because I think it's going to be 2 bedrooms, isn't it, as opposed to 1 bed or something at the moment. So the likelihood is it's going to get worse.
Yeah. Okay. Seem to be coming down on that one. John, any comments? You don't have to.
Well, I mean, I'm a bit like Rich, not sure, because if you go around Frome, there's even tighter developments than that you can find around Frome, new things that have been approved. So, but I think on the points around parking, there's just, you look at it, it's just crammed. It's going to be crammed. So I think I would object
On the basis of overdevelopment. Okay. Well, I'm going to propose we object on the basis of overdevelopment.
And the
there we
impact
go
on
from there.
parking.
So I'm going to propose that, seconded by John. Okay, well, we'll come down on that.
Was that everybody?
unanimous,
Yeah,
yeah.
unanimous. Okay, thank you. So next on the list for discussion is number 827 on our list, and that's 33 Spring Road. And this is for the replacement, to replace a detached garage stroke workshop. And actually what's missing from the description is the fact that there will be solar panels on the roof. And I think that the reason I brought this one up for discussion was really based on the comments from Councillor Dunk and the concern about whether or not the solar panels or the orientation of the solar panels was in the right place. I don't think that's a reason to object necessarily. It was just to maybe help highlight that they might want to consider looking at that. I don't think that the actual replacement building will have any impact visually. I'm not even sure that you'll be able to see it at all.
I think the slope of the roof is not really conducive to
It's
solar panels.
5 degrees, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Paul's probably Go on, Paul, you probably know more about it.
No, I just wanted to say, I think,
Yes.
I just wonder why they're going for the design that they're going for with a very shallow pitch roof, and the solar panels effectively pointing in the non-ideal direction, because if the slope was to the south and a steeper pitch, it would be much better from a solar panel point of view, but the building would be quite a bit higher overall. And I wonder if the reason why they've gone for the non-ideal is to keep it down. So I think in some ways, well, I don't object in principle, and I would encourage them to make the most of the solar if they're going to have solar panels. However, by encouraging them to do that, it may have more impact on number 27. It's really difficult for us to be able to see that.
Yeah, can't really see that, can we? No, yeah. I totally agree with you.
Okay, so
Any other comments?
So are we just giving advice?
I think we're giving advice,
Yeah.
we're not objecting per se, but I think we're just saying it, if you redesign it, you're going to get a lot better usage out of those solar panels, basically.
It is quite a hidden site. I used to live
Yeah.
down the road from there. It's a fantastic garden and house, actually. I did have my eyes on it at one time. But so, you know, and there's already a shed there, which you can't see at the moment when you walk past. So it's, you know, I don't have an objection. I just, as Councillor Dunk suggested, and Paul just then, you know, maybe they could think about the design of it a little bit more. But I don't object.
Great. So we're not objecting, I don't think. We're just
just-
giving advice about the...
I think Paul put it very well.
Yeah.
Encourage them to make the most of the solar, whilst not impacting.
Just maybe ought to add a question to that, because, as I said, if they do change the pitch of the roof and make it higher, would they need to kind of change the drawings presumably
They would,
and
yeah.
reconsult, because as I say, may have an impact.
May have an
on
Yeah,
the- so,
yeah. I was going to add whilst not impacting on
yeah.
the neighbouring property. Yeah.
So
Okay, is everybody happy with that?
I think so. Do you have to vote on that?
Yes, please.
Can I propose that, please? Rich? Signed by Sheila.
Yep, and that's unanimous. Thank you. I can't see you all so well today. Okay, so the next one on the list is number 830, and that is 10 Stonewall Terrace. So you may remember that we saw this application previously. Oh, sorry. And so the erection now for the erection of a one-bedroom dwelling house. Previously, it was for the erection of a two-bedroom dwelling house, and there were concerns about the fact that you know, this is a very small plot as it is, and by wanting to put an additional dwelling, you know, it's incredibly small. But at the time, last time, we did say that if it was a one-bedroom dwelling, that may be more acceptable. So the plans have been amended. I'm just going to have to move how my screen is showing because I can't see the plans underneath it. Right. So yes, this
They
is,
haven't really been amended a great deal, have
so
they?
this was the original floor plan showing one bedroom and two bedroom, and this is the proposed floor plan showing one bedroom and a study. And the only difference, I believe, is
That wall.
this wall here is making the bathroom slightly bigger and showing this as a study. So the concern is, and I think the Civic Society have summed it up quite nicely, that actually, you know, that could still be used
There's a two-bedroom.
as a two-bedroom. It is possible to ask for a condition that it only be a one-bedroom property, but the reality is, who's going to enforce that condition? Yeah, it's difficult because even if it were one bigger bedroom with just the bathroom upstairs and no study, is that still enough living space? I think the Civic Society have suggested it would be suitable for one person based on the, you know, space standards. But, you know, that is, we did say previously that if it was one bedroom, then it may be acceptable. So I'm just pointing out that on the floor plans and just to see what you think, really. Silence.
I would say, given what we just talked about, the previous one, that I think we could say this is, and it doesn't even have a way to get in except by foot. So there's not even a place for the parking.
Oh, yes, sorry, I forgot about parking.
Parking, I think, is a big issue. So I would say,
Does it comply with minimum spacing? I guess
Space
there's a square
standards.
foot per person sort of thing. It doesn't comply with that.
No, but previously, we haven't always felt that that was necessarily an issue. And, similar to what Rich was saying before about, somebody needs somewhere to live. But I think John's right in this instance that actually, it will create more parking. If you look at the neighbours' comments online, they are very concerned about the impact it will have on the already stretched parking in that area. As I said, it's so difficult to know how many people are going to live there.
Yeah,
It,
Put a bed settee in the living room.
yeah,
absolutely.
it's another one of these.
Absolutely.
Because they own next door, don't they? That's I remember.
Yeah.
And you can almost say, well, why don't you turn next door and this into 2 flats or something like that? And it might be much more suitable. It just doesn't seem right to
It
me.
doesn't feel right, does
No.
it?
It's,
It just
I mean, it's
doesn't
interesting
feel
you
right.
suggesting another solution. I mean, I think the fact that we've already suggested a solution and then we're now saying, oh, well, maybe not. I think we have to be careful in offering solutions when actually what we're saying is this site is too small for a development here. And I think we should stop at that, really, and say we understand that it can be tricky to find, and people need housing, but, not at any price. And what we're saying is this is too small. I do understand your desire to
I sort of tend to
accommodate.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Dorrington? Agree with who?
It's too small.
It's too small, right.
Okay, so
John?
I would say in defense of our previous comment to make it 1 bedroom, they haven't actually changed the footprint at
No,
all.
exactly.
They
Yeah.
they haven't really responded to the comment.
Yeah, I think we just, it's just generally too small. It sort of seems to be general feeling.
Okay, so if I say something along the lines of, whilst we appreciate that this has now been changed to a one-bedroom property, with the inclusion of the study, we still feel that the footprint is too small, not suitable as a dwelling, and we have concerns about the parking.
Great. Thank you. Someone propose that? Thank you, John. So I was just thinking, someone second it.
And that's unanimous as well. Thank you. Next on the list is number 831, and this is 14 Clumber Drive. So this is for the conversion of the loft into bedroom and bathroom and a dormer window construction to the front. So here I've included the photograph that was submitted with the application, the one with the blue garage underneath. As you can see, so from the front, you've got the garage underneath, and around the back, it goes straight out from the first floor to ground level, so it's actually quite raised, and that's sort of demonstrated here. I think you can see how prominent these houses are on the ridge there, and if you were to pan round, all of the houses that go up Park Hill Drive are similar in height.
I haven't got 20 steps up to the front door like these ones have, because I've just been leafleting it. It's hard work, I can assure you.
Very the next councillor, it definitely is.
And obviously you've got the bungalows on the lower level here. So my concern was that this dormer window, apart from the fact that none of the other properties have dormers to the front, that will be very, very prominent on on the ridge line or the skyline,
No.
however you want to call it.
Can I also ask a question just on, I was thinking, I mean, it's precipitous there, and what about, you know, something like a fire brigade, say a fire broke up in that top loft, getting a fire brigade up here, it's really tricky and very high up. I just wondered from a safety issue, do we have any comment on that, or can we comment on that?
We can comment on that. It wouldn't necessarily be a material planning consideration, but it would be
Right.
something that would be looked at as part of the building regs application, so that they would have to demonstrate, I believe, Paul might know better, that they're, you know, how they would exit, and that the materials would need to be to a standard that were fire
Approved.
Retardant of some
retardant.
sort, yeah.
That's the word I was looking for, retardant.
But that will all be checked. It's not, I mean, it looks so high up.
It does look
and so,
incredibly high, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
If
It's
you,
going to be really overbearing, isn't it?
if you swapped it to the back,
Yeah.
is that a possibility?
Uh,
I think that's what I thought when I was looking at
Isn't
it.
Pack saddle behind there, though?
Yeah, I'd possibly, not having seen the impact from the back.
No, I don't know what the back's
what the
like,
impact
but,
would be.
Then you've got overlooking, though, haven't you, on the back? If you put it on the back, you'd overlook all those.
Would it overlook that bit of open land there, though? I can't quite recall exactly where it is. It probably will overlook something, but I can't remember how big the gardens are at the back there.
Presumably the views are to the front as part of the reason.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why you want to do it.
The
I
view
do.
looks all the way down
Yeah.
Parkhill Drive, St Mary's Church, and through to Welsh Mill, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And presumably into or over all of those people's,
The bungalows.
All over the
Yeah.
roofs, yeah.
Yeah. yeah.
In the mill, well, yeah, Welsh Mill.
I don't think I objected to this, did I? I went out in the notes, did I?
I think you did, yeah.
All right, okay. Fine. Yeah, no, I'm a positive person, generally.
I don't normally have a problem with people putting, loft extensions and things, because so many people do it, but it does just seem incredibly high, this particular one, I must admit.
I don't think that the height is so much of an issue. I think it's the incongruous nature of a dormer on the front when you see all the others, really.
How do you spell that?
Incongruous. Different.
What is it? Yeah, I mean, there's I think that was part of my point, about that there, you can see the property just slightly to the left-hand side has got some roof lights there, but none of the other properties have got dormers, and Paul's absolutely right. I think the impact of that on the street scene would be detrimental,
Detrimental, that's a good one.
and I can spell it.
On the street scene, that was Rick's favourite thing, wasn't it?
Is that right? I couldn't see any floor plans either, or at least
I think.
first.
I haven't put them on here, but I think there was one, but I didn't. I didn't.
I think I found a top floor, second floor. I don't know which is. Yeah, it was a.
Yeah.
But
What's the ground floor, the garage, or is that?
Yeah.
It was the first floor or the second floor, depending on which is the ground floor.
I think the answer is there was one.
So where are we on this one then, Jane?
Well, I feel that everybody does think that the impact
Is a bit too much.
is too much, because of the harm to the street scene, and I do, I think there will be overlooking from this as well, and I think all of that combined just is too much.
Okay. Agree with that. Someone propose that then? Thanks, John. It's seconded by Paul. What's on the
And that's unanimous as well. Thank you.
Good.
Next on the list, 832, and this is 78 Windsor Crescent, and it's for the erection of a 2-storey rear extension. And again, this really comes down to if we're concerned about the overlooking, the site is outlined in red. You can see it in more detail here. The extension to the rear is proposed here, and then the detail of that extension is this element and this element. And the concern about the overlooking is here, because they're actually proposing a Juliet
balcony. It's all the rage, isn't it?
Yeah, and then if I then go back to the block plan, so effectively that balcony, I would suggest
We saw another one in Windsor Crescent, didn't we?
across.
Where was that? Was that close? It wasn't that far away, wasn't it? It was just on the bend, yeah. 81 or 83, yeah.
It's not. It is difficult, I think, to assess overlooking in plan form, and I think suggested that maybe this is one for the case officer to assess when they visit
I
site.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially as it's at the back.
Yeah.
Even driving around the front, you can't get a feel for it, can you?
There's the two sort of, are they garages next door?
These.
Both next door neighbours.
Garages.
So I can remember one of those is quite big, so they may not be overlooking.
77, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
And
overlooking,
yeah,
isn't it?
so well, potentially both.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It really is one for the case officer, isn't it?
I
We can't.
Okay.
I mean, I know the Civic Society had objected, didn't they, on just that. It would dominate, overwhelm both neighbouring properties.
yeah. As I say, I think that is. I think that's why I raised it, because that was my concern. But I do think you would need to look at it.
Is it down as a Juliet balcony or as a full balcony?
Juliet.
Julia.
That implies you can't actually
You can't go out onto it.
No.
despite what they show.
Although it looks like a person on the balcony, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about that.
And presumably there aren't windows currently on that elevation at first floor.
No. I don't think so. I should have put that on
Actually,
there.
I think is this the one where that has got windows? There's little cutouts in the pitch roof of the ground floor extension.
Oh, here you mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's little.
Yeah, but I mean, but because they're lower.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't add the only first ground floor, aren't they? So one for the case officer, I think. Is that one sort of agreement on that? Yeah.
So that we don't object or approve, we just send it to the case officer.
We're just raising our concern.
Raising our concerns, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone propose that? Well done, John. Proposing everything, John. Well done. Mark, second.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have number 835, and this is the old church house church steps.
Mr. Ronstadt.
The replacement of the front door and side light, and the installation of a shower and toilet. The reason I've highlighted this one, I'm sure everybody's walked past it often, and my concern was that the plans that have been submitted really don't detail enough the work that's going to be carried out. You would normally expect to see some quite detailed joinery sections, yeah, and
Already cleared it out, haven't they? of
Yeah.
course,
Wooden frame to the door that's on the right there. It's like a retrospective application. Somebody's obviously said, hang on a minute, I think you ought to put in a bit of an application.
It's
yeah.
Freddie Ronstadt, isn't it?
And also, I couldn't see on. It might be there, but I couldn't really see on the floor plans this sort of shower and toilet, or what the existing plan was. There's quite a detailed document about lifting the flagstone and the archaeology and what they found underneath there, but I just don't think that the plans are detailed enough, but
No.
I would caveat that with saying that, you know, that the listed building officer or the conservation officer is going to be
Yeah, yeah.
really,
All over it.
yeah,
Like a
that's the
rash.
words, yes. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think
like a cheap suit, as you'd say in London.
I kind of agree. I think that the drawings are inadequate for really for us to
Yeah.
assess. So I kind of felt quite sorry for the conservation officer really to have to kind of.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the thing about the joinery details, obviously, that can be conditioned.
Yes, yeah,
So that could come later on.
yeah.
But I couldn't make I couldn't. There wasn't enough information from Reed to assess this. I don't think
Yeah.
so. I think we just have to defer to the conservation officer.
Absolutely, totally agree.
can I just ask? I wasn't sure. You know, the original door that it's got that pointed. It's between the two windows.
Well, that one.
It's the most fantastic original door. I couldn't really read what they were going to do with that. It looks like they're going to do something to it, but I can't,
It's not clear, Sheila. I've
because it would
couldn't work
be
it out.
absolute tragedy to lose that door. It's amazing.
They sit out there and have a coffee, don't they?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's really great that someone's taken that building on and is going to use it. I think that's fantastic, and it looks like the joinery on the door, the lower door, it looks really good. But but as like I say, I think somebody said, "Hang on a minute, you need to put in some
Don't have
plans."
provision.
And
The intention is positive.
the intention
Yeah,
is
I
good.
think it
Yes,
is, yeah.
I agree. And it's a rather, despite the fact it's had a horrible fire which has compromised that right-hand side. You know, it's a extremely important location and needs to be done sensitively.
So would you like me to add that, you know, we welcome the fact that this building is being,
Renovated.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to defer to the conversation. One of them. Conservation officer. Even the
Them
conversation.
getting one to come out, that's the next problem.
okay,
I
so
was talking to the guy when we did the busking because we were there and he was really nice. You vote on that?
so is everybody happy
Yeah.
with that?
Have to vote?
Yeah.
Someone propose that? John, thank you. Thank you, Rich.
You've guessed it. It's unanimous.
You've been here 2.5 hours.
Okay, so next on the list is number 836, and this is the Black Swan on Bridge Street, Frome, for the removal of a crabapple tree.
What is the crabapple tree, Jane? Is it the one on the big one on the left? The bigger one on the left. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of coat. Yeah.
The reasons given for its removal, you know, it blocks access, particularly disabled access and people with pushchairs, etc. Obviously, the crab apples fall off.
Nightmare, aren't
And it was really just because, you know, we don't like to see the loss of trees, and it's whether or not you feel that the reasons for its removal are sufficient. They will be replacing the pleated trees here. It's only a word I learnt recently. And also they said that they're proposing to plant new trees, or 3 new trees in place of removing the crabapple. But I think 3 new trees are going where the shed, or one, so those 2, and then one where the shed is at the back. So it was really just, that's why I raised it, to see whether or not there was any objection to that.
And I think they're also, so they're putting the trees, the pleached trees, in the troughs, which I think, you know, they've got temporary ones there, but they're going to make it maybe a bit permanent, and then put the planters at right angles to that as well.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it's just a wall, so they're adding to the greenery around there. It's a shame to, like you say, to take down what is quite a substantial tree, but it's overgrown now. The site, really, it must have been quite small when they first put it in, but it's really got huge. And, you know, it's a shame somebody hasn't been cutting it back as it went along.
It's been looked after a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I do get their point about the fact that it can get really slippy with those, and it's certainly it's an incredibly prestigious tree. It absolutely heaves with produce. I've often thought it's a shame they can't just make it into some jelly and sell it, but anyway, they're not doing that.
So I can very much see why.
So have I. I've got a crab apple. I don't need any more crab apples, thanks.
Throw them around. Has anyone got any real objections? Rich, you're a tree man.
Well, I never like to see trees go,
Yeah.
but I know that, tree. I've never had a crab apple hit me on the head when I've been there, but there you go.
It can be arranged.
It's pretty slippery.
I've thought about this for a long time, but I'm not going to object.
Okay,
So no objection?
no objection. Someone proposed that. Go look over here. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sheila.
And that's unanimous as well. So the last one on the list.
Is she?
She can speak.
Janine, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was only going to say, do they actually have to chop it down, or is there a way to remove it, kind of lock, stock and barrel? Because it's embedded in one of those kind of, it's been bricked in and around, and I just wondered rather than actually chopping it down, if they can like physically remove it, maybe.
Can't really hear you, Janine. Were you asking if they could chop it? No. What were you?
Replant it. Hang on.
Replant it?
Oh,
Yeah.
It is pretty big.
I think to get it out, Janine, they have actually got to chop it down because it's actually surrounded by, whether that's tarmac or whatever the surfacing is. I don't think they could physically get it out without killing the tree anyway.
Fair enough.
All right, thanks, Janine.
Last one on the list that I've raised, more trees. So this is number 837 on our list. And if you don't know where these are, they are literally out of that window. So on Park Road. The reason I raised this is because the Civic Society are concerned about the pollarding or severe pollarding, and we're asking, whether there's an alternative. I did talk to Chris Stringer about this because, he's more expert in trees than myself, and he in turn did have a quick chat with somebody, an arboriculturist, and what the outcome is that actually this is clay soil all along here, and if those trees aren't pollarded, then actually the damage that they will cause to the pavements, the buildings, structural damage, and actually once you've started to pollard, you have to keep pollarding. So it was really just to consider that fact. I don't think we could object, but I think the tree officer will probably go with the fact, they really do need to be pollarded.
I think they certainly need attention.
Yep.
I think the tricky thing will be is how hard you pollard, you cut them back, because my understanding is if you cut back trees too severely, they think, and really grow. So there's a sort of a real expertise needed here to make sure that this doesn't just make it even worse, really.
Yeah, the application has been made by tree surgeons, so I would hope that they know what they're doing.
It's common practice, and I think it's much better than what Sheffield did. They just decided to take them all out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So is that a no objection?
No objection.
Yes to no.
Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. So I hadn't specifically raised any, or so I just say we hadn't raised any others specifically, but there may be some that others might want to discuss.
want to look at Selwood, I know Paul's involved in it, but the Civic Society moaned again about it, so, you know, if we have to...
I didn't think they objected this time.
They didn't formally object. They did still moan about it.
I did, just to point out why I didn't raise that one was because we hadn't actually objected to
The
the
first time.
ori- original application, so.
More a suggestion they made, wasn't it, about
Yeah.
tweaking of a window or something? Yeah.
I didn't really have any comment on that. I mean,
I've had this discussion already
yeah, I'm sure you have.
with the conservation officer, yeah, so, yeah, I mean, it's just a
No
different
further
point
comment
of
from
view.
you, I must say.
No.
Years, years.
It's really about,
I failed the last planning thing, and I forgot the one thing I did.
it's really about how you add to historic buildings, and I think what the Civic Society is trying to suggest is that when you, I mean, I'm sure they don't have a blanket policy, but what they're trying to suggest in this situation is the addition to this particular historic building should mimic the existing building. And I take a different view, the client takes a different view, that actually it should be distinct from the existing building. And it's just a different sort of
We
thing.
have every time about pastiche and vernacular.
Yeah, yeah.
I do think that's a discussion that we really do need to have with the Civic Society. This, you know, we're always going to say, look, it's much better to be clear where one alteration
Yeah.
changes. You know, you don't want to have something that looks like it's
Then you get the lineage
original,
of the building, don't you?
and you get the history of the building is very visible. And I would have thought the Civic Society should be able to hear that. But it's certainly worth a discussion with them if they're constantly going to say that every time a building is.
I had a discussion with the chair of the Civic Society this afternoon, and she wants to produce an aid memoir to help us with this, and particularly whatever format this panel takes in the future, to help new councillors come into that.
That'd be good.
Certainly work with them on
Yeah.
something like that.
They certainly are very keen to do that, to work alongside. She's very
Yeah,
keen.
I mean, it was actually something that we had suggested because Steve and I did meet with them.
We did
and have
we
quite
met
a
with them.
discussion.
Yeah.
And we,
This afternoon.
yeah, we felt that would be helpful. So yeah, we'll continue to.
And we did ask that they come and present to the
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
planning, whatever committee, whatever is
Because there's a
decided.
discussion about
You know,
listed building, not listed building, but you still can't do anything to the non-listed building that you wouldn't be able to do to the listed
building of significant, whatever it
And
is,
there's
yeah,
no way of telling, and I've put
yeah.
this on a comment before, there's no way of telling by looking on the District Council's website if it is of significant interest, rather. You
that's
can
it.
tell if it's a conservation area or a listed building. You can't. I'm in the end of a terrace, I'm listed in conservation, my neighbour's listed in conservation, one on the end isn't. So if somebody moved into that house, they wouldn't know that they were subject to this,
That's exactly the
possible ruling.
the conversation that we had with them. So yeah, it's about helping people understand.
Otherwise, you won't be able to do anything to their houses.
So were there
Absolutely.
any others that people wanted to raise?
Yeah,
Or
the one
yeah,
that I
sorry.
was 840, which was the one in Clifford.
Oh, yes.
The,
Yeah, I hadn't preloaded the plans for that one, unfortunately.
I just what did the Civic
I
Society?
don't think
have to
they
say about
had any objection to that one.
it? I wasn't sure with it.
840, the old tannery.
Yeah, the old tenant.
Yeah, it's for an external walkway access lift on the rear elevation.
Society, no objection.
Fair enough.
There's quite a lot of history on that site.
know, yeah.
And originally there was some opposition to changing the first floor, I think, into residential accommodation. That's gone ahead now. And I'm assuming it's some way of separating the accommodation to have its own access, yeah, which may be required for some kind of fire regulation. But I would have thought that would have been done when they changed the use.
I would have
So,
thought so.
yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed a lot of work in there. That,
Yeah.
you know, but it may not be that visually, and it's certainly in keeping with the industrial nature.
Yeah,
of the building,
yeah.
so, but it just seemed a lot. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Anybody else? No?
Anything else, anybody?
Is it worth noting Civic Society comments about the one that they kind of approved. Was that Trinity, somewhere in Trinity, if I remember? I can't remember the exact number.
That's the one we were just talking about.
Is it the same one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I do apologise.
That was the old tannery.
Yeah.
Selwood Road, that was the one. There was some atrium or glass thing which has been low.
That's Paul's one.
Paul's
Yours, is
one,
it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's been a long evening.
Right, let's wrap
Apologise.
it up then. So, Jane?
Well, yes, I probably should have said this earlier, but just for the record, are you happy for me to put together a formal response for the Master Lane application? Obviously, I think, I just set out the basis of what our objection would be, but obviously I'll write that up into a much more comprehensive document and then pass that through Chair, Vice Chair.
Hurry up.
Hurry up, yes, okay, I'll do, yeah, well, yes, yeah, okay. Date of the next meeting, we don't know when or what that will be at this point in time, partly because the next scheduled meeting won't be able to happen. The first meeting of the new council will establish what committees there will be and who will be sitting on those committees. So the date that's published of the next planning meeting is the day after that council meeting, so we won't have a week clear to be able to send out an agenda. So that won't be the date of the next meeting, but obviously as soon as we know what when, we will publish those details.
Great.
Thank
Can we
you.
just get you to vote on all the other applications?
Oh yeah, and vote on all the other applications because I forgot.
So no objection on all the other applications. Thank you, Paul.
And that's unanimous as well.
Great. Thank you very much. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it from me and everyone else. I'd just like to thank everybody, actually. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 3 years. It's been a really good bunch, and I think everyone brings something really, really different to this. Thanks, Mark, for your forthright comments. Rich is the utmost diplomatic sometimes.
Some of us have been here for 7 years nearly, I think.
Yeah, and Sheila is always...
Well, I'd really
and
like to
everything.
thank, it's usually Rich and Paul who submit the comments earliest on the emails, and they're so valuable. Thank you very much for doing that, because often I'm a bit bamboozled by all those plans.
And I'd
It's really
love
helpful.
to thank Paul as basically the brains behind a lot of things as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely super. Really enjoyed listening to it. And John, of course, John will always be remembered for a little bit of impromptu weightlifting while we were having stuff. So that was great. And I've got 2 other thank yous. I'll get to that first.
60,000 hits you've got, John, so far on YouTube.
At least now I'll be able to do it in private while I watch the meeting.
That's for you.
Thank you.
It's just from me for putting up with me for the last 3 years.
Oh, thank you so
Because I haven't
much.
got a clue what's been going on. And obviously, my dear, I couldn't possibly... without
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks both.
Oh, you're gonna you're blushing as well.
I'd like to thank Jane, because this has been like a university weekly or bi-weekly or tri-weekly seminar. I have learned so much about
It has. It's been like the Open University at planning.
and that will
It's
be why I
absolutely
keep
wonderful.
coming, actually, or I
Thank
keep
you.
listening in while I do my, because of all that learning.
Yeah, well, that's really nice, and thank you, Steve, so much, and thank you to everybody actually, because we have this meeting every 3 weeks, and it doesn't feel like a chore. It's been fantastic working with all of you, and I know some of you will still be staying, but yeah, thank you from me, genuinely.
There's 2 other people I want to thank. One is not here, and that's Helen Kay, because she often does turn up for meetings, and she often really gives us good feedback, and she listens and she really presents what we've got to say at Mendit, which is really good, and hopefully that continue. And obviously Andy, I mean, you've sat through hours and hours and hours as a member of the public. I mean, I don't know how to feel sorry for you or your wife. I mean, it's just, I mean, at least in 2 weeks' time you may do it officially, if you know what I mean. But,
Longest-living apprentice.
so thanks, Andy. It's been, I mean, it's great to have somebody here, and I'm sure we'll be doing some stuff together. So.